on, yeah. Never felt that, come on, yeah. When I never felt that, come on, yeah. You gotta get up.
Enlightened absolutism. It only sounds oxymoronic. It is a conundrum. You should know one who stressed the importance of a strong monarchy. These are the three that we're going to focus on. Let's start with Frederick the Great of Prussia. His title that he gave himself? Voltaire, regular guest at his court. Alright, the Prussian bureaucracy. People that were not nobles, the Junkers, were now able to fill senior government posts. Meritocracy. Still favored Protestants for key government posts. Northern Germans are going to be predominantly Lutherans. Do not argue drill. Do not argue pay. Do not argue belief. Only one ruler in the world says argue as much as you please, but obey. Voltaire, he did abolish torture, limited freedom of speech and press, though he continued to enlarge the army, maintained serfdom, so no real advances for the vast majority of the people. Most of the Prussian army was not actually Prussian. The officers were Prussian, the rest were made up from people around Europe, most of the time, many times, forced into service through press gangs. These are the guys wandering around, checking out bars for people too drunk, and next thing you know, you're a member of the Prussian army. Joseph II of Austria tried to do the most, probably accomplished the least long term. The War of Austrian Succession. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. We took a look at that previously. Consolidation of power. Serious religious toleration, private worship for Jews, and at this point, nobody had religious toleration for the Jews. Abolished serfdom, granted more rights to peasants, although it didn't always trickle down to the bottom. His successors undid many of his reforms, so long-term, not a lot of results. Here lies Joseph II, who failed in all he undertook. That's what he suggested should be put on his tombstone. So obviously he had some self-esteem problems. As we move on to Russia, Catherine the Great. Alright, she married her husband Peter III. He died less than a year after taking the throne, quite likely by assassination, and quite likely she purchased his library, paid him a salary to be her librarian. So, remember Diderot? Peasants and Cossacks on the Russian frontier rise up. Did not work out well for them. At that point, she is too reliant on the nobles for any serious reform, so therefore serfdom will be maintained. All right, so if we move on to the historical, political activities of the time, Poland is going to be divided, which will move to the War of Austrian Succession. When Maria Therese comes to the throne, the Prussians see it as a weakness having a female leader, so they invade over the province of Silesia, and Frederick Wilhelm decides not going to give that back. So immediately this war will lead to the 7 Years' War, probably the first true world war. Britain and Prussia versus Austria, Russia, and France. France went from hating on Austria to being their friend. Basically, not a lot happened in Europe until Russia quit, took their ball, and went home. France out of India and America. In America, we refer to that as the French and Indian War, which they will lose. Louisiana then is transferred from France to the Spanish. Canada and America to the British. And it's going to start the dominoes falling that will lead to the American Revolution. Spanish Florida to the British. So those were the territorial changes following the 7 Years' War.